It's a common sense recap of the big stories. It's Katz and Cosby on 77 WABC.
And we are back here on Katz and Cosby. Well, Kamala Harris did her closing argument last night. She's doing cleanup, trying to do today after the garbage comments from President Biden. Wow, that's all everybody's talking about.
I'm going downstairs and jumping in the trash can.
I told you, you're going to have tens of millions of people joining you, John, because it's a crowded group. Well, joining us now is Michael Goodwin, the great Pulitzer Prize winning columnist of the New York Post. Michael, first of all, boy, did President Biden take away from any message she had.
Yeah. Was it Oscar the Grouch who lived in a garbage can?
It was. I loved Oscar. Oscar was great.
Ahead of his times, huh?
It's amazing, isn't it, that we heard that from President Biden. What do you make of the timing of his comment? And boy, anything that she got. And I watched her closing statement last night. I'll tell you, it was actually painful because they claimed that it was going to be a unifying message. She mentioned Trump, trashed Trump 24 times, and then said, oh, by the way, I'm for everybody.
That's the Democrats' idea of unity. We all hate Trump. The problem is that all those garbage people, to quote Joe Biden, get in the way of the message. Look, the whole garbage thing. There are so many. It's like a billiard shot, right? It hits all the different pockets. I mean, you have Biden doing this while she's trying to, as you say, make an appeal, a closing argument as to why she should be president of the United States. And of course, his remark follows by a couple of days the comedian in the Trump rally at Madison Square Garden talking about Puerto Rico as a floating island of garbage. Now, there are some facts behind that. Puerto Rico has a major garbage problem. Nonetheless, it was a crude joke, and it didn't go over well, and the Democrats milked it for all it's worth. What are the odds that the president would use the same word 2 days later to undercut Kamala Harris? And it does strike me that there is more than a small possibility that he is torn, that he wants to be the nominee, and that he doesn't mind if she loses. And I do think that this is not the first time that he stepped on her message, never quite so overtly as this one, but I don't think he's in love with the idea of her being the president and him being shuttled off to retirement somewhere. So I don't put it past him that this was either a conscious or unconscious effort to sabotage her.
Yeah.
And also, I'm not so sure. It took a few days for President Obama to calm down because that wasn't his first choice. And he wanted to be the only black president. He didn't want another one.
Well, and look, even the Obamas have been basically on an apology tour of their own, at least Barack, the former president, because of his scolding of black men. I saw something that he's been meeting with black men to explain himself. Well, if you're explaining, then you miss the point. And so, look, I think the Democrats are sort of torn by hating Trump, but not really having a candidate whom they can wholeheartedly support without having to scold and denounce other voters who aren't on the bus. And I think it's a remarkable time. I mean, I think it does reflect Harris's weaknesses. It reflects the very quick overthrow of Biden back in July. We still don't know, as I read in my column today, we still don't know what he was told that led him to surrender. He resisted until the last minute. I wonder if it isn't something about the 25th Amendment.
By the way, I think so, too. I think so, too, Michael.
We will leave you finish the term if you agree not to run, if you step aside. She clearly was surprised. She didn't see it coming that quickly. And I think that, they had this euphoria because the members of the party were ready to get rid of Biden. That terrible debate had further demoralized them.
But was that
Trump was going to win in a landslide?
Michael, was that a setup? Because, CNN, MSNBC, New York Times, they have to have 11 meetings to make a decision what they're going to do. 5 minutes after the debate, they were sticking the knife in Joe Biden at MSNBC and on New York Times and at CNN. A few minutes right after the debate.
You know, John, I've thought about this a lot too, and it does strike me that the whole debate, if you go back, it's very unusual to have a debate in June.
Yeah, the timing.
They usually happen in the fall.
Yeah, after the convention.
Very
unusual.
That's right, but this is before the convention even.
Right.
So, and Biden, you remember, said he wasn't sure whether he was going to debate Trump, and then he insisted that they debate in June. And it came out later that what else the DNC was doing and the campaign was doing, they were spending $50 million in advertising in June in the battleground states. So I think what this was a kind of last gasp. Here's your last chance, Joe. We're going to do a debate. We're going to do these ads. And if you don't do well, if you don't reverse the numbers, then we're going to give you the hook. And because I think that the donors, we should never underestimate what was going on behind the scenes. And the donors, remember that George Clooney op-ed? That was at a donors meeting where he said Biden, repeated the same story 3 times in a donors meeting. I think the donors were getting antsy about this. The polls were showing that Trump was building a lead, and so they had to try the debate to see if they could reverse their fortunes and at the same time run ads in the battleground states. Well, we know the whole thing flopped, and therefore he gets the hook. Now, whether he agreed with that in advance, that if he didn't do well, whatever, but that debate was a seismic event in this campaign, and it still reverberates because he's still there. I mean, last night she's a couple of 100 yards away from him,
right?
Trying to separate from him, but at the same time the White House in the background, and she won't say what she did differently. I mean, the whole thing is a mess.
It is. And by the way, the other thing I thought about with the Biden comment that happened, remember it was a week ago that he said, we're going to lock him up. Politically. So this is not the first time that he's it makes you wonder. And he's looking at the polls now. Yes. He's seeing what we're all seeing. You're wondering. And there was that whisper. I think it was at Ethel Kennedy's wedding, funeral, forgive me, the funeral where they were standing next to. Yeah, I know. So they were standing next to each other. There's so many Kennedys, they get married. But they were sitting, next to each other, and you see, Biden and Obama whispering to each other the lip readers were saying, he was saying, look, I'm a better candidate. Your thoughts, Michael?
Yes, I think that is another revealing example. I think the Post hired a lip reader who decoded it as, I'm stronger than she is, and Barack Obama supposedly responds something to the effect of, yes, that's true, but there's still time. And so soon after that, the Obamas started hitting the trail, and they haven't just done a few things. They've been out there really pushing because I think they feel there's a lot riding on it for them. If Donald Trump wins again, it will be such a repudiation, not only of the Obamas and Biden and Harris, but of the whole progressive political structure, that all of the things they've been trying to stuff down America's throats in these last 4 years, from the Green New Deal, which we all know is just a boondoggle, the transgender stuff, the racial stuff, all of these things, try to make Puerto Rico a state, try to pack the Supreme Court, do away with the filibuster. All of these things are on the ballot this time. And if Donald Trump defeats all of that, that will be a remarkable achievement that will send the Democrats, I think they'll have to do an autopsy as to where have we gone wrong with voters.
Yeah, it'll be a long and painful autopsy. Everybody, we were talking to Michael Goodwin. Judge Weinberg.
Michael, I'll tell you what troubled me about her speech last night when she accused Trump of having an enemies list. She said that without any evidence. There's no substantiation. She just made it up, and that's probably one of the most divisive things she could have said last night. Your thoughts?
Well, look, the phrase enemies list, of course, what's the first thing you think of?
Nixon.
Of course. And so to the extent that you can associate Donald Trump with people, with politicians, Republicans who are unpopular now, whose reputation has been sullied, then you do that. I mean, she lied about a number of things. I mean, there were too many of them. I mean, the Post did a little sidebar because I couldn't fit them all into my column. But
did you see where she said
the whole
illegals,
abortion ban?
And about the illegals that she will get rid of? She said, "I will get rid of illegal migrants immediately." And then the next side of her mouth, she said, "But we will also try to form a pathway to citizenship." Which it's like, what are you talking about? Look at what she's saying.
And that was my point, that when you look at her in the shadow of the White House, the shadow of Joe Biden hangs over her, but so does the shadow of Donald Trump, because he, in all the major issues that are before the country now, he is more popular on all of them. Every poll shows him with higher ratings on the border, on the economy, on inflation, on world leadership. I mean, she bears this burden of an unpopular president, an unpopular administration, a failing administration, and a more popular, more successful president. So the confusion for me is why she has not defined herself better. She's really had enough time now.
I don't think she wants to.
Last night, I think, was her last chance, and so she just didn't do it. You cannot say that she's going to be different from Biden. She just will not go there.
You know what I think, Michael Goodwin? I think she does not want to, because I think the real Kamala Harris is who she has been talking and saying for the last few years, up until the last few months. And on record, she has talked about defunding the police, a whole bunch of stuff, and she can't say who she is. John, go ahead.
Well, then we got some breaking news, and maybe on your 10 o'clock hour, more targeted attacks possible on ballot boxes after set on fire in 2 different states already.
Yeah, wow. And by the way, did you see, Michael, we were just reporting before that in Washington State, the one that was set on fire was, it had ties to this sort of Free Palestine, Free Gaza. They had messages written all over the boxes.
Yeah, look, I think we shouldn't underestimate the desire. I don't know what the political affiliation, whether there's any favoritism here between Trump and Harris, but I think we shouldn't underestimate the possibility that this is just pure chaos for its own sake, that it's not necessarily designed to help or hurt a candidate as much as it is just to sow chaos and cause doubt and confusion in the United States, that's what these nihilists want to do.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, Michael Goodwin, thank you very, very much. We love having you on, Michael. Hopefully we talk to you before the results come in, Michael. We always love having you on.
Thank you.
And what do we all stand for?
Truth, justice, and the American way.
God bless America.